Meet Marcus. He is 44 years old and works as a senior manager at a shipping company. Marcus makes $112,000 a year. He lives in a very nice suburban house, drives a sleek BMW car, and his kids go to an expensive school. Since his wife works too, they bring home nearly $180,000 every single year. By every visible measure, Marcus is doing amazingly well. But his actual net worth is only $23,000. That is not a typo. It is not $230,000, and it is definitely not $2.3 million. It is just $23,000, which is about the same amount of value his car lost the exact day he bought it. Something here does not add up. The answer to this puzzle is not how much money he makes, and it is not even how much he spends. It is something much older and quieter. Once you see it, you will notice it everywhere. Most money advice tells you that overspending is just a willpower problem. Experts tell you to stop buying daily coffees, track your budget, and show some self-control. But that idea misses the point entirely. The real engine behind financial trouble is not laziness. It is a social habit built into our brains long before money even existed. This is about the approval tax, the invisible price most people pay on every big choice they make without ever knowing it. I've spent a lot of time studying why hardworking people make good money but still end up with nothing. This single idea explains that gap better than anything else. If you want to know why income and real wealth are not the same thing, stick around. Please like and subscribe if this helps you. The standard story about money goes like this. You spend too much because you want nice things. The cure is simple discipline. You just need to make a strict budget, freeze your spending, and learn to wait for things. People frame this as a test of your character. The people who pass the test build wealth, while the ones who fail stay broke. It is a very clean story, and it makes a lot of sense at first. It maps onto real human behavior. People really do buy fancy items they cannot afford, so telling them to just stop sounds logical. But here is where the story cracks. Studies on how people spend money consistently find something surprising. A huge amount of the extra things we buy are not driven by a real desire for the product itself. Instead, they're driven by what that purchase signals to other people. The expensive car is not really about how well it drives. The major kitchen renovation is not really about cooking better meals. Even moving to a specific neighborhood is often not truly about the schools. When you realize this, the whole framework of discipline versus laziness completely collapses. You cannot out-discipline a natural social instinct. Your brain is wired to care what others think. You cannot just force that feeling to disappear. You can only learn to understand it. Here is the main concept that runs through this entire video: the approval tax. The approval tax is the extra money you pay on top of what an item actually costs to do its job, just so you can look a certain way to others. You're paying a premium to impress people whose opinions you have not even consciously chosen to care about. Most people never notice this tax because it does not show up on a receipt or a bank statement. Instead, it hides inside ordinary-looking choices. It is in the neighborhood you pick, the car you drive, the school your kids attend, the vacation pictures you post online, and the watch you wear to a meeting. Each of these decisions feels like a personal preference, but in reality, almost none of them are. You're choosing them based on a hidden script. The truly dangerous part is not any single purchase. The real danger is that the approval tax compounds, meaning it grows larger and heavier over time. It does not just steal your spare cash. It slowly re-engineers your entire financial life around maintaining an image. Because of this, every single time you get a raise or a bonus at work, that extra money gets absorbed instantly to feed the image. The money is gone before it ever has a chance to turn into real savings or build true wealth. Imagine you are carrying a heavy backpack up a steep hill. Inside the backpack are rocks. You put them in there yourself, one at a time, over many years. Each rock felt small and light when you first added it. One rock is your monthly car payment. Another is the giant mortgage that stretches your budget to its absolute limit. Then there is the private school tuition, followed by an expensive club membership. You can still walk with this backpack. You can even walk fast if you strain your muscles. But your load is never actually getting lighter. Every single time your income goes up, which is like getting a sudden burst of new energy, you do not use that strength to get ahead. Instead, you just add another rock. You do this so your backpack feels appropriately heavy for someone of your new social status. That is the approval tax in physical form. The problem is not that you cannot climb a hill. The problem is that you are systematically canceling out every single advantage you earn. Because you keep adding weight, the hill never gets any easier to climb. The beautiful view at the top never actually gets any closer. Worst of all, the rocks do not even feel like heavy stones anymore. They feel like your identity. They feel like who you are. We will come back to Marcus and his backpack in just a moment. Let's put an actual number on what this costs you. The average choice driven by the approval tax is not a simple $200 shopping spree. It is built right into your lifestyle. Let's look at just 3 common examples. First is housing. Imagine buying a house for $480,000 instead of a perfectly fine one for $340,000, just to live in the right neighborhood. That is a $140,000 stretch. But with a 30-year mortgage and interest, you do not just pay $140,000 extra. Totaled up, it is closer to $247,000. That means you are paying an extra $686 every single month for 30 years. Second is your vehicle. Imagine choosing a $52,000 car over a $31,000 car. That $21,000 gap, paid over 5 years, costs an extra $397 each month. If you buy 4 cars over your driving lifetime, that adds up to $84,000 in extra payments. And that is before you even count the higher costs for insurance and repairs. Third is the neighborhood tax. The difference in yearly property taxes between a fancy status suburb and a regular, solid suburb can easily be $4,000 to $8,000. Over 18 years of raising your kids there, that equals up to $144,000. If you add just those 3 things together, the total is $475,000. This is a realistic guess of what the approval tax costs a family that seems to make good choices, just slightly fancier ones. Now, think about what happens if you take that $475,000 and invest it in the stock market instead. With a normal 7% average return over 25 years, that money grows into $2.57 million. That is not a small mistake. That is an entire retirement. That is the exact number Marcus does not have. Marcus did not make reckless or crazy decisions. That is exactly what makes his story worth telling. When he was 32 years old, he got a major promotion at work. His salary jumped from $74,000 to $94,000. He and his wife, Diane, sat down and did the math. They realized they could afford a bigger house. They had kids on the way, and they want a good school district. So they stretched their budget, not irresponsibly, or so they thought, to buy a $430,000 home in a suburb that made them feel like they had finally made it. When Marcus turned 36, he got another big raise. This time, they upgraded his car. His job required him to meet with clients face-to-face, so he believed it really mattered how he showed up to meetings. To them, this felt like a true fact, not just an excuse to spend money. By the time Marcus was 39, their daughter started attending a private middle school. It was not a super fancy school, just a normal mid-tier one that cost $14,000 a year. Still, they found a way to make it work. Each of these decisions, when looked at all by itself, could be defended. But when you put them all together, they build a financial trap with almost no breathing room. Now, at age 44, Marcus and Diane make a combined income of $178,000 a year. However, their fixed bills, like the mortgage, 2 car payments, insurance, school tuition, and minimum credit card payments, add up to $7,840 every single month. After taxes, their actual take-home pay is about $10,200 a month. That leaves them with just $2,360 a month for everything else. Out of that small remainder, they have to pay for food, utilities, the kids' activities, clothing, and unexpected emergencies. It also means they have almost nothing left for retirement savings. Most months, they save $0. Some months, they actually lose ground and slip further into debt. Marcus was not poor, but he was completely trapped by his own image. Every single extra dollar he earned had already been spent in advance. He spent on a lifestyle just to prove he deserved that higher income. The backpack had gotten so heavy that he had completely stopped noticing he was even carrying it. Here is why this happens to people like Marcus and why willpower was never going to fix the problem. Human beings evolved a long time ago in small groups. In those tribes, your social standing directly decided whether you lived or died. Back then, status was not about being vain or conceited. It was about survival. High status meant you got access to better food, protection, and resources. The ancient brains that tracked and defended their social position were the ones that survived. That old wiring in our brains did not disappear when we invented modern banks and mortgages. Instead, it got redirected toward financial signals. Houses, cars, schools, and neighborhoods became the modern tribe's way of reading your rank in society. Because of this, your nervous system treats a threat to your social status with the exact same urgency as a physical threat. If someone perceives you as lower than you are, your brain panics. This all happens deep below your conscious thoughts. You do not choose to feel this sudden anxiety, and you do not choose to fix it with an expensive upgrade. The upgrade just feels right when you buy it. It feels like the responsible choice, the exact one a person at your level is supposed to make. The businesses that sell you these things, like real estate agents, car dealerships, schools, and fashion brands, are not secretly plotting against you. They do not need to. They're just very good at speaking the language that your oldest human instincts already understand perfectly. The real problem here is not Marcus's character. He is not a bad or weak person. The problem is simply that no one ever handed him a guide to translate what his instincts were actually doing to his money. Standard wisdom always says the same thing. Earning more money is the only true path to financial security. People tell you to get the raise, get the promotion, and grow your income. But here is what is actually true. Getting a higher income without changing how you view yourself just gives you a larger approval tax bill. Every single time Marcus earned more money, his social group shifted. He got new neighbors, new colleagues at work, and met parents whose kids went to fancier schools. His spending automatically adjusted upward to match this new group. His income grew by 60% over 12 years, but his net worth grew by almost nothing. Meanwhile, think about someone else who started with the exact same income as Marcus. This person bought a house in a slightly less prestigious neighborhood, drove a car that was one tier down, and put $1,100 a month in a simple index fund starting at age 32. By age 44, that person is sitting on somewhere between $280,000 and $340,000 in investments, depending on how the stock market did. They lived in the same city. They made the same income. They worked the exact same number of years. The big difference here is not talent, and it is not superhuman discipline. The difference is simply whether the approval tax was running silently in the background of their life. The person who is successfully building wealth is not punishing or depriving themselves. They just stopped paying a heavy tax that they never consciously agreed to pay in the first place. Understanding this concept matters, but doing something about it matters even more. Here are 3 things you can act on before this week is over. First, calculate your actual approval tax bill. Look at your fixed monthly bills. These are the payments you cannot escape without a lawyer, a penalty fee, or selling something major. Add them up. Now ask yourself honestly, how many of those items were chosen at a higher price just because of how they would look to others? You do not need perfect math. Just highlight the ones where trying to impress people played a role. That total sum is your current approval tax payment. Second, run a redirect scenario. Take just 20% of that highlighted amount and put it into a compound interest calculator online. Assume a normal 7% annual return and set the timeline to your retirement age. Whatever number pops up is what the tax is costing you in future wealth, not just current cash. Write this number down on paper. The number needs to feel real before your choices can change. Third, pick one upcoming decision and run it through a filter. Do not worry about past choices, since you cannot undo old mistakes. But you probably have a new decision coming up soon, like a car lease, a vacation, a home project, or a school choice. Before you spend the money, ask yourself one question. If no one I know would ever find out about this choice, would I still pay this exact price for it? You do not have to say no every time, but you do have to ask the question honestly. Marcus is a combined story of many people. However, his numbers are taken from real families, and his situation is incredibly common. What is rare is seeing the situation clearly enough to stop paying the tax. The people who are quietly building real wealth are not making more money than you. They are simply carrying a much lighter backpack up the hill.